Hi, and welcome to Mrs. PM Reads. Today we are continuing in our story, Shoeless Joe by W.P. Kinsella. And this is still part 2, the big, huge part in the middle. And this will be section 4 of part 2. In the last video, Ray is in Chicago and he took in a game or just went to Wrigley Field, and we had a little bit of a vision of what it was like to walk through downtown Chicago in 1982, which is when this book was written. All right, continuing. The disappointment of Chicago fades away as I take I-80 again, heading for Cleveland. But my experience in Cleveland turns out to be little better. Hardly the kind of adventure I would have chosen. A meager crowd scattered at random throughout the cavernous Cleveland ballpark on a blustery afternoon watches the Indians lose. Many of the fans carry radios, as if hoping the crowd noise will somehow be amplified and the game will be more interesting secondhand than in person. After the game, I do get a carafe near my hotel for supper. Oh my gosh. I go to a cafe for supper. I get a carafe. All right, well, anyway. It is a pleasant restaurant of the 20th century America that it could have been created by the motion of a cookie cutter, a counter, 2 rows of booths, the booths separated from the counter by a row of plastic foliage growing out of a divider full of white stones that they look like they too were manufactured. I am sitting at the counter eating a synthetic veal cutlet covered in a bland, tasteless gravy when the holdup man comes in. The owner, a swarthy Greek with hair like tufts of black whack grass, is behind the counter. I am staring directly into his apron, which is a Rorschach test of grease spots. The holdup man walks the length of the counter and stops behind me and to my right. In fact, I don't even notice him until I hear the Greek give a strangled cry that sounds like, "Wah!" Raising my head from my cutlet, I look directly into the Greek's stricken face. I peer over my right shoulder. The holdup man is short and wiry and has his right hand buried in the pocket of a dirty brown windbreaker. His chinless, ferret-like face has not seen a razor for several days. "I'm going to blow everybody away," the holdup man says clearly, with what I take to be just a trace of a Southern accent. The Greek continues to stand directly in front of me. I can see a field of tombstones emerging from the stains on his apron. He raises his hands, palms out at ear level, and makes the sound again. Thank goodness it doesn't say it. A rasping gasp, as though he were swallowing his false teeth. "I'm going to blow everybody away," the holdup man says again, louder. He is looking only at the Greek. Behind him, behind the divider full of geraniums and rubber plants with Tupperware leaves, some customers are padding rapidly towards the exit. I edge one seat to my left. The Greek moves with me, keeping me between him and the gunman. I wonder what would happen if I edged my way all the way down the 15 or so empty stools to the door. I move one more. The Greek moves with me. Sit still, the holdup man says. Unaccountably, I reach back 2 stools and drag my congealing cutlet after me. I consider bolting and running, but as I stare at the Greek's belly, I imagine the holdup man pumping a number of bullets into my escaping back, and simultaneously an Iowa highway patrolman, his boots blood-colored in the glow from the porch light, informing Annie that I have been shot. A woman emerges from the metallic-colored swinging doors at the end of the counter to my right. She looks around, tosses her head, rearranges her hair like a horse shaking away a fly. She walks towards us, stopping beside the Greek, again, right in front of me, only 3 feet or so from the gunman. Put your hands down, Demas, she says to the Greek in a nasal twang. This creep ain't gonna hurt you. She wears a thin, grayish white uniform with 2 front pockets at waist level. A red cigarette pack shows clearly through the sparse material of one. A yellow order pad is in the other. Above her left breast is a white plastic name tag with the word Wanda Lee impressed in black letters. What are you doing? Wanda Lee says in a whiny yet contemptuous voice. I'm going to blow everybody away. I'm sorry, it's not funny. It's just the 3rd time he said the same thing. The man says as an answer, like hell you are, says Wanda Lee. She is about 35 with steam straight black hair, a wide face with a very small nose, and a large mouth with spaces between her teeth. Wanda Lee steps even closer to the gunman. Frank, you haven't got a gun in there, she says, her upper lip curling into a genuine snarl. And even if you did, you wouldn't have the guts to use it. Under her flimsy uniform, like a $20 bill stuffed in her bra, Wanda apparently harbors a death wish. It becomes apparent that I am in the middle of a domestic dispute of some kind, not a holdup. The Greek lowers his right hand, keeps his left at ear level. Among the spots on his apron, I see silhouettes of Annie and Karen dressed in black. The police hate domestic disputes worse than holdups. I decide to move 1 stool closer to the door. Sit down, Frank says to me. I have so got a gun, he says to Wanda Lee. They play Yes, I Have, No, You Don't for a few moments. As they do, they let little bits of their life loose like items of ID pulled from a billfold. Frank is Wanda Lee's boyfriend, live-in lover, maybe even ex-husband. Wanda Lee keeps baiting him. I wait for him to indeed produce a gun and splatter Wanda Lee and the Greek against the mirrored wall, then start looking around for witnesses. Suddenly, the Greek says, Hey, Frank, what do you think of the Indians losing again today? I heard it all on the radio. And he points to an ancient brown radio with a fret-sawed design on the front. I was at the game, I say hopefully. Wanda Lee has been seeing someone on the side. Frank doesn't know who, though I'd guess it is Demas, by the way he keeps his left hand in the air. Slut, shouts Frank. Sorry. Why, I should stick around you. You can't even, oh gosh. Anyway, insults back and forth. If he has a gun, he'll use it now. I consider fainting. Surely he wouldn't shoot an unconscious man. There is a trick to fainting. Annie taught it to me. In her high school senior play at West High School in Iowa City, Annie played the mother in The Man Who Came to Dinner. She was required to faint about 5 times during the play. You just cross your right foot behind your left and let yourself down onto the floor, sideways on your right side. When Karen or I tell Annie something of earth-shaking importance, she still sometimes collapses her hand to her forehead and executes a feint. Oh, Mommy, Karen will say in exasperation, you're not really dead. The Greek, who has been inching his right hand closer to the counter utensils, sees his chance. He picks up off the counter one of those glass sugar containers shaped like a small white rocket, and with deadly aim at close range, bounces it off Frank's forehead. Frank pulls his right hand, white and gunless, from his jacket pocket and tests his forehead, where blood is emerging in a bright semicircle brand near his temple. He turns and runs, staggering from the restaurant. I told you he didn't have a gun, says Wanda Lee, standing triumphantly, hands on her hips. Next time he will, I think, and almost say. On the house, says the Greek, pointing to my sad cutlet and cold coffee, as 2 burly police officers, summoned, I suppose, by departing customers, rush in, guns drawn, then rush out again as the Greek points in the direction in which Frank fled. Outside, a woman in a black kimono-like dress, body big as an oil drum, her head a wild tumbleweed of hair, her cheeks like halves of a black grapefruit, cuddles to her flabby chest what must surely be an albino baby. Its skin the blue-white color of skim milk, its head covered in a crocheted bonnet, woolly as a lamb's back. What does that have to do with the story? I don't know. Okay. I stop at a motel near Pittsburgh. Only got a family unit this left, says the bored old woman who sits sideways on a chair watching a microscopic black and white television. But I'll give it to you at the regular price. The outside of the motel is finished in gray imitation brick. Inside are 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, a bath. Enough for a large family dragging along an ailing grandmother. The building is old and depressing. Sway back linoleum floors, a brown hulk of space heater, dead flies on all the windowsills. The place has obviously been rented out on a permanent basis over the winter months, as I discover when I look in the freezer compartment of the squat yellowish fridge and discover some frozen fish. There is a bottle of Dr. Pepper on one of the shelves and some brown lettuce in the crisper. I move to the kitchen cupboards and find a half a package of graham crackers, an unopened box of minute rice, and a plastic bag half full of potatoes, growing slender feelers, the cold color of ivory. Hello. Hey, this is Cora. If you haven't seen her before, she passes by from time to time. In New York, the weather is warmer, and an unusual thing happens to me at Yankee Stadium. I stand in line for tickets. Right field bleach has it all we got for you. I hear a ticket seller intone to those in front of me. Right field bleach. He's feigning a New York accent. Bleachers. Right field bleachers is all we got for you. I hear the ticket seller intone to those in front of me. I plunk down my master charge and say, one of your best, please. I sign for the $7.50 ticket and am surprised when the man at the turnstiles directs me towards the lower box seats. That doesn't seem like the right price ticket for 1982. So I'm going to tell you, I'm not 100% sure when the story takes place. The book was published in 1982, but $7.50 for a Yankees ticket is not a 1982 price, I don't think. Anyway, by some miracle, my seat is 10 rows directly behind home plate. The man next to me has paid a scalper $30 per ticket for him and his family. His wife is sorely and disinterested. His son's too small to concentrate for long. He spends the game trekking back and forth to the concessions. I am so close to the game that when Thurman Munson tosses his mask and charges back to the screen after a pop-up, he is nearly close enough to touch. I'm glad I got to see him. No one knows that he will be dead before the leaves turn. I drive on to Boston, even though it is out of my way. Sorry. I want to have the tickets in my pocket when I travel to New Hampshire. I want to feel them in my hand, solid as passports, with convict-like photos. Perhaps secret codes will be punched in them. I park the car and walk in the sun along the sleazy street outside Fenway Park, where winos, unkept as groundhogs, sun themselves and half-heartedly cage porters, supposedly for food. I'm a little short for a meal, Mac. Can you help me out? I'm 80 cents short for the price of a ticket, says a tiny bald wino with a sunburned head. He eyes me carefully, smiling from a toothless mouth. He must know from the way I hitch my jeans that I'm not a local. Or perhaps he can tell by my green and white cap with the red letters, Orkin, on the peak. I give him $1 and say I hope he enjoys the game. Oh my goodness. Must have been that drink of water. He winks at me. Again, I am fortunate. 2 tickets, section 17, right behind the Sox dugout, the elderly ticket seller assures me. His right eye is sightless, rolled back, and what is visible looks like a mixture of milk and cherry blossoms. I drive as far as the intersection of 90 and 91, a little more than an hour of travel upward along a very vermilion line that parallels the Vermont and New Hampshire border will bring me to Windsor, Vermont. That was an odd jump. Yeah, that was the jump. So he watched the Red Sox and now he's on his way to Vermont. Salinger country. My project seems more absurd all the time. What in the world am I going to say to him? Salinger, 25 years of silence, has bred rumors that rise like mosquitoes from a swamp and buzz angrily and irritatingly in the air. And I've collected them, as a child might collect matchbooks, and stashed them in an unruly clamor in a dresser drawer already full of pens, tape, marbles, paper clips, and old playing cards. He hasn't eaten anything but soybeans for 15 years. I recently heard an American literature professor say authoritatively when we were at Mark's home in the University Heights area of Iowa City. Annie and I, the only non-academics present. Tired of answering the question, how is your corn crop coming? I had mentioned my interest in Salinger to let them know I read more than International Harvester repair manuals. Mark's house is wide and spacious with a lot of windows and much glass and chrome furniture. In fact, the living room looks a little like a furniture store display window and smells of new fabric, plastic, and waxed floors. Our own sofa was plucked from the front yard of a frat house in Iowa City, not long after we were married. It has round arms and is covered in a ferny green cloth, soft as a plush toy. It has endured abuse. I lifted a cushion one day to find an atrophied donut in among the Lego pencils, matchbooks, and Karen's lost socks. I looked at the donut for a while, feeling very happy, and covered it up for posterity. He arrives at the store every afternoon at 3:30, and he speaks the same words every single day. 3 pounds of soybeans, please. Unless, of course, a long weekend is coming up, then he orders 5 pounds. Mark's party is bulging with tweed and intellect. As I steer Annie toward the door, she informs me brightly that she has just learned that Chaucer died of cancer of the testicles. Mark, besides being a burgeoning business tycoon, in partnership with a dishonest-looking accountant named Bluestein, is a minor celebrity in the university community. He had been written up in a number of learned journals, has had articles published, and is often invited to give lectures to government officials, farm marketing boards, and Future Farmers of America conventions. Mark's theory is that the impudent corn weevil is bent upon conquering the world. When Annie first told me about this, she looked me straight in the eye and warned me not to snicker about it. Not to snicker about it. Especially in the presence of my brother-in-law, who wrestled as a light heavyweight during one of the numerous years when Iowa won the NCAA wrestling title. University people treat that kind of thing very seriously, she said, exploring my forearm with her small freckled hand. She added that it was probably wise never to snicker in the presence of my brother-in-law, who holds atheists, Catholics, Democrats, and the University of Oklahoma wrestling team in equally low esteem. But if you want to snicker when we're alone, it's okay, said Annie, throwing herself into my arms, sitting on my lap, her denim legs bracketed around my thighs. Imagine devoting your life to corn weevils. Annie buried her face in my shoulder as we laughed and rocked back and forth. It can't be as bad as selling life insurance, I said, and told her about selling a $5,000 policy that week to a Portuguese house painter who thought he was insuring his half-ton truck. Okay, and we're going to stop there for today. Interesting section. I don't know that we learned a whole awful lot, except that Ray is basically making his way from Iowa to New Hampshire. All right, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.